What's doing, everybody? I'm Alec Lace. Thank you for watching First Class Fatherhood. Today's guest on the podcast is radio host Don La Greca. Don La Greca was the very first voice that listeners heard when ESPN New York Radio launched back in 2001. Don is the co-host of The Michael Kay Show on ESPN Radio. He also has a podcast of his own that he co-hosts with his brother Dave called It's A La Greca Show. The link to their podcast is down there in the description below. While you're down there, hit the subscribe button, tap the like, and let's jump into it right now with Don La Greca on First Class Fatherhood. Joining me now, First Class Father, Don La Greca. Welcome to First Class Fatherhood.
My pleasure, man. How you doing?
Doing very well. Let's get it kicked off like this here. How many kids do you have, and how old are they?
I have twins, a boy and a girl, and on February 5th, they'll be 3 years, 2 months.
Wow, very cool. Did you guys find out what you were having beforehand, or did you do like a gender reveal, or you wait till the end to find out?
No, we didn't have a gender reveal, but we knew what we were going to have. We knew what we were getting into. It was great.
Yeah, you knew you're getting 1 and 1. So you guys are all done here, or are you going for any more?
No, that's it. I'm 52, going to be 53. So I think that's enough. I had them when I was 49 years old, and we both kind of knew that this was going to be it. So the fact that we had 2 was great.
Yeah. My father had me when I'm the youngest of 7 altogether. My father was 50 years old when he had me, so I know a little bit about the scene there. If you could, Don, please just take a second here to hit my listeners with a little bit about your background and what you do.
Well, I work on the Michael Kay Show. I'm the co-host of that from 3 to 7 on 98.7 ESPN New York. It's also on the Yes Network. I do the pre and post for the New York Rangers, and I fill in for Kenny Albert doing play-by-play. He misses about 40 games a year because he does Knicks, he does Fox football, he does NBC hockey. So that between those 2 things, it keeps me really busy.
Yeah, I would imagine. Yeah, you've had an extensive radio career here, Don. Now, you just mentioned that you became a father at 49. So along this journey of yours here, how did becoming a dad kind of change your perspective on life?
Well, just it put the priorities all in a different order, right? I mean, I was telling people the thing that I was looking forward to most having children was I was going to finally have somebody else to worry about besides myself. You know, you spend your entire life and you're married, you got your wife, but it's not like she needs you the way kids need you, you know? So you've got your priorities before you have kids, or what are you going to have for dinner? Very career oriented. You know, what am I going to do about this job? And then when you have kids, all that just doesn't matter. It dissolves into the background. I mean, all that stuff is still important, but now something that was not in your life becomes the most important thing. I mean, how are they feeling? What do they need? And just putting your priorities in order is really just it's been great. I mean, I really love doing that, you know, to being able to think about something other than what you need to go through. Is just having to live for them. And with the age that they are, you know, they need you for everything, you know, and that's great. And you start to see your influence on them, which blows you away. They start talking the way you talk. They start acting the way you act. And that's what just makes it so much fun. So great. So to answer your question, it's putting the priorities in a different order, in a better order.
Yeah, well said, Don. And now you obviously you've been doing the Michael Kay Show for a long time here, and you've been into the routine. So I know, you know, the first child, you start with that sleep disruption. You're up a lot longer. And having twins is, you know, double the pleasure. So how did it kind of in the beginning? How did that kind of affect your radio career? Did you go into some more Don La Greca rants early on in this whole thing? How did it all work out?
It's actually, and Michael's accused me of this, and I guess there's some truth to it. That I think there's less rants because those things don't aggravate me as much because they just don't seem as important, you know, about, you know, wins and losses and things that are going on in sports. So it kind of mellowed me, I think. As far as the sleep is concerned, it's been devastating. I'm a guy that will like sleep till noon before the kids, you know, stay up till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, take that lap around the TV channels, and then get caught in Goodfellas at 2 o'clock in the morning and staying up until 4 to watch it. Those days are long gone. So getting up early with them. So that's kind of changed me into more of a morning person, going to bed early. So that's been the biggest adjustment for me. But otherwise, the thing with the twins, I tell people, they do everything together. So, you know, unfortunately they get sick together, they're hungry at the same time. So yeah, it's double the work, but it's not as crazy. There's a lot more order to it. So maybe when they get older, things will be different. But I think people that have like a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old, there's two different planes you got to be on. But at least for me, with them being the exact same age, everything's happening in the same time, so it's not that bad.
Yeah, that's a good point. I have four kids myself. My older two are only 15 months apart, and it was like that dealing with the two of them. They were on two different schedule sets, so it was a little bit different there. And then throwing the third one in really kind of threw us for a loop. That first year felt like one day. All right, so then what would you say, Don, are the top values that you're hoping to instill in your kids here as they grow up?
To care about themselves, to care about each other is the main thing, not care just about yourself. And that's what I really feel like so proud as a father when my daughter's crying and Marco, my son, comforts her, or my daughter says, "What's wrong, Marco?" when he's having a fit. That's just that makes me feel so good because I want them to be able to care about other people. I want them to realize that it's not just about you, it's about other people. And so when they start caring about everything that's going on, I mean, it's a crazy world. I mean, I keep thinking about that all the time, about the kind of world I brought them into. And it's so easy to be selfish and only think about yourself, but to care about other people, care about the direction that the world is going into, those are the things, those are the values I want to instill in them. To just not think about yourself, because it's so easy to do that, make yourself feel good, only worry about what your problems are. So that's what I want. I want them to be able to care about everything that's happening, care about each other. That's the great thing about twins is they're going to school together, they're with each other. So the play dates aren't necessarily as important because they have somebody that's with them all the time. And we put them in the daycare. We didn't really have to because my wife doesn't work, but we did it because we want them to be able to socialize with other kids and become friends with other children. And that's what I want to make sure is that they get along with other people, that they're not so stubborn like their father is, and I'm right and you're wrong and all that. And that's what I'm hoping that I can really get them to just believe that, care, listen to other people, care about other people's problems, look at things through other people's lens. It's early now, but I'm hoping I can get that going for them as they get older.
Yeah, good stuff, Don. You mentioned they're putting them in daycare or something like that. I know that the coronavirus here has really changed the way we do everything. My kids home from school, back to school, home again, and it's the social distancing. We got kids wearing masks. Yours are 3 years old, so for them it's kind of like they're growing up now thinking that that's a normal thing that everyone walks around with masks. So I'm curious to see how that affects these kids like yours that eventually are growing up through this. How has the quarantine been with you with the two twins? Have you been able to get them out, get them socialized, or have they been pretty much locked down?
Well, they were locked down. I guess they closed down a daycare. I believe it was March 17th. They didn't open it up again until September. So, but I've got a 5-year-old nephew that we watch occasionally. So he's been able to come over. And so the pandemic has actually been very good for the family, getting to spend more time with my kids. I've been able to work from home. So I'm with them a lot more. And I look at the pictures of when the pandemic started to now, they're like different people because you don't realize 10 months for a 3-year-old is a long time. And I've been able to see all of that I haven't had to travel with the Rangers. I haven't had to go into the city every day, coming home, 8:30 when they've already been in bed. So I got to see them more. They've been able to interact with my nephew Declan. So that helped because his mom had to work during the pandemic. So with daycare and schools closed, he stayed with us. So that really helped the interaction tremendously. And since they've been going back to daycare, everything's fine. They're wearing their masks. They're doing a good job that way. So, and they're young. They're too young to understand what's going on. We haven't had to really explain to them what's taking place. They kind of just follow directions. But overall, I feel bad for people that have lost their jobs and people that have really been devastated by this pandemic. But for me, the pandemic has really given me a chance to stay closer with my family, which has been tremendous.
Yeah, that's definitely been one of the silver linings through all this. I think a lot of people got a chance to really reconnect with their family, especially people that are out always traveling, like you said yourself there. And one thing I'm curious, Don, at the beginning of this pandemic, when all the sports were all locked down, what was that like for the sports radio world there, where all you do is cover the sports and you had nothing really going on? What was it like during that time in the beginning where all the sports were kind of canceled?
It
How
was
was it?
actually a lot of fun because the great thing about our show is that we're very eclectic with our tastes and we kind of veer off of sports quite a bit during the show. So it gave us a chance to really have a lot of fun and be creative. We came up with top fives. We came up with a trivia contest. We came up with like telling stories from our past. I actually thought it was kind of fun. It got a little monotonous towards the end, like, 4 months without sports. But we also caught some breaks, right? Tom Brady went to Tampa during that time. The NFL still had their draft. When's sports going to come back? Was always a topic of conversation. But we got through it because I think our show kind of veers to different things, and we were ready for that. So in some ways, I really enjoyed it because instead of being stuck having to talk about certain topics, we were able to kind of do whatever we wanted to do, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, awesome. I think a lot of people had to get innovative. One thing for me, a lot of people that I was trying to book interviews with became suddenly available because everyone's plans got canceled. So it kind of helped out in that
All
way
right.
too. So there were some pretty cool side effects to it. But pulling it back into you as a dad here, Don, for a second. I know that they're young yet, 3 years old, but what type of disciplinarian are you so far as a dad? Are you a spanker, timeout guy? And is it a lot different than the discipline that you grew up with?
I don't know. I need help. I need to be counseled on this because my father was not a hitter. I did not get spanked as a child. But my father could bench press 500 pounds. He was a brown belt. My father looked at me and I just got scared. And that was enough but he never laid a hand on me, but I knew if he ever did, I'd be in trouble. So I do not spank them. But I feel like yelling at them is counterproductive because it just kind of scares them. They don't really understand. But part of the not understanding is they're too young. You can't talk to them either because they don't understand it. So I'm kind of I'm no man's land where I just don't really know what's the most effective way to do it. I guess having a harsher tone is the best way. But I'll be honest with you, sometimes my patients get so afraid that I end up by finding myself screaming. And I don't know if that's a good thing. That I don't want to scare them, but I also want to make sure that they don't do what they did again. My daughter loves to take a pen and paint the couch. If I go, you don't do that, she giggles. She doesn't understand. If I yell at her, she cries and screams. And I'm just kind of it's really been difficult. I'm still trying to feel my way on what's the most effective way. I don't think hitting them is a good thing. Um, but I still have to figure out some effective way. They've been great kids, so there's been few and far between situations where I've had to discipline them. But I guess just a harsher tone is the best way. But sometimes my frustrations get the worst of me, and what a harsh tone ends up me like screaming at the top of my lungs, which I don't want to do either. So I'm still trying to figure that out. My wife's got it. She's able to be patient and talk to them harshly. She doesn't lose it. I lose it too easy. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Well, I would just say just because you don't want it to get diluted to like where they always take that harsh tone. Like I say, you want them to be able to listen if they're walking in the parking lot and there's a car backing up and you yell. They listen. Like that's one of the things that's I have the four of them. They all respond differently to different discipline styles. So one of the things I've done with my kids is there's a book, The Five Love Languages, which a lot of people suggest for like couples to read and to do. I've done it with my kids as well. This way I kind of get an inside look at how they give and receive love and how they respond to it. So that was very helpful for me. And I just want them to take my tone as the authoritarian tone, not a suggestion. When I say, hey, guys, time to come up for dinner, it's time to come up for dinner. I'm not saying, hey, if you feel like coming up for dinner, come on up. This is what we're doing. So I'm still learning myself here, Don, as I go along, and each one responds differently. So, and then how about as far as the bedtime routine? Are you a storyteller, a book reader? Are you putting on the greatest hits from Michael Kay to put him to sleep? Are you a lullaby guy? How do you get him to sleep?
That's where they're different. Like my daughter loves to be read to. She brings the book and read. He's just a maniac, jumping off of everything, throwing himself in everything, and he's going 1,000 miles an hour until he just passes out. So like she'll kind of mellow down, sit down. I'll read a book to her. My mom gave me kind of a Bible for kids, which kind of just gives like treetops on some of the stories, and I read that to her, and then she'll kind of drift off to sleep. My son is like crazy, running around, jumping, falling on his head, spinning around, and I'll just pick him up, put him in the crib, and then bang, he's out. Right. So he doesn't seem to respond to any storytelling at all. So my wife will try to read to my daughter, and I'll kind of run and play with him and try to get his aggressions out before he falls asleep. So it's kind of that's one thing where they're really different. He wants to play hard right till the bitter end, and she just wants to kind of slowly kind of wind down with a nice story. So That's why it's good that I'm home so that I can take care of her. My wife can take care of him. Although the reverse is better because my wife's not really into all of the MMA kind of stuff that my son seems to be finding himself in right now. So that's where it's been a little bit of a juggling act.
Yeah, I know you're big into the pro wrestling. I just had AJ Styles on the show here. I know. Do you put the Royal Rumble on? Are you trying to get him into the wrestling there?
Well, that's the thing. That's my brother. I don't get the wrestling at all, but I do the show with Peter Rosenberg. He's a big wrestling fan. My brother does a wrestling show called Busted Open on Sirius XM. I don't understand it. I don't get it. But whenever my brother is with my son, that's when he starts like flipping him upside down, say, "I'll break your back and make you humble," whatever, like the Iron Sheik and all that. But so I don't really get into the wrestling, but we do wrestle, which is it because I'll be on the ground and he comes like charging at me and I'll lift him up and like put him back down on his back and try to pin him, and then he'll like find a way to get back out and start running at me again. It's a lot. It gets the aggression out. He sometimes he's a little too aggressive. I got to try to stop him. He doesn't punch other people, but he likes punching me. So I got to try to sometimes calm him down from there. But we do get very physical, which is a lot of fun. He seems to really like that a lot.
And you mentioned your brother there. I know you got the YouTube show. You got It's a La Greca Show. What was the genesis of that, and what can the listeners expect when they tune in?
Well, the great thing about this is that my brother is somebody that I'm very, very close to, and even though we have different tastes, he's a wrestling fan, and I'm not. He's not as much a sports fan as I am, but we have a lot of the same sensibilities, and we'd talk on the phone, and we'd start getting into like these debates, and the things that we share in common are we're not easily embarrassed, and we never give up on a fight. Like if I get into an argument with you, even if I'm dead wrong, I'll just still keep coming at you. And like this could maybe work for a show because these conversations are so entertaining. So I've worked with my brother in the past. He's been a producer on some of my shows, but now he's become a talent himself. So a chance for us to do something together is great. And we've gotten into some great debates. We come up with these top fives. We came up with the top 5 guilty pleasure movies. we ranked all the Rocky movies. We debated on whether Die Hard is a Christmas movie. So we've had some really good and really interesting conversations, and so it's been fun. It's not really about sports; it's kind of just about everything, and it's been such a pleasure to get a chance to work with him. It's been great.
Yeah, I'm going to drop a link in the description of this podcast episode so my listeners can tap it, get over there and check it out. What's next for you here then, Don? I know we're at the beginning of the new year here. We got it still up in the air on what's going on pandemic-wise and stuff, but what kind of goals or plans do you have here for yourself for the future?
Well, right now it's just try to be the best father that I can be. The Michael K show has been great. Continue to have that happen and focus on hockey. It's interesting, like I mentioned before in the beginning of the show, that the priorities change. And before the kids, everything was how do I get better? How do I move up in the business? How do I try to get a better contract and all that? But really, I'm so satisfied with my career right now. And so everything about like what's next really is more family oriented than it is business oriented. Getting ready for the kids. Pretty soon they're going to be going to school. We just had to make a decision the other day about having the kids go full time to daycare. They were going 3 days a week. But I thought it was important for them to go 5 days so that they could be prepared when they make the transition to go to school. So those seem to be the priorities for me, is just getting the family in order, getting the kids moving in the right direction, making sure that they're starting to learn, because it can't all be playtime. Like in the beginning, it was all playtime. But now we spend a lot more time trying to get their numbers, trying to get them to understand their colors and their shapes and all that. So that's what I find. The little victories in life always seem to be about their successes. Before it was about my success, what was happening with my career. Now I'm just as proud and happy when, like today, finally Marco was able to count 1 through. We showed him the flashcards, and he was able to do 1 through 7. And that gave me the same kind of pride as if I landed a new job or called a great Ranger game. So to answer your question, it's really just about getting them on the straight and narrow, getting them moving in the right direction. So that's where my focus pretty much is once this pandemic is over.
Yeah, good stuff. And you probably touched on it right there. But the last thing I want to hit you with here, Don, is I love to ask all the dads that I get on the podcast, what type of advice do you have for that new dad or for that about to be father who's out there listening?
Um, just have patience. Um, Things do not go the way you plan them all the time. They kind of dictate the way it goes. So just have patience. That's very important. Um, try to get as much sleep as humanly possible, because you don't. That's the thing. It's so easy to kind of forget about yourself, like I was mentioning before. But you're not good to anybody if you get yourself sick or you're run down. So just try to make sure that you take advantage of the me time that you have, because you're all consumed with the kids. Try to carve out a little time for your significant other. Like for me and my wife, it might seem very simple, but once the kids go to bed, we've always got shows on the DVR. We'll watch the shows, watch the news, then kind of go to bed. So just make sure you got some time for yourself, something to look forward to. Because if you make it all about the kids, then it could hurt the relationship. It can kind of hurt you physically and mentally. So make sure you do carve out, even if it's a little bit of time where it's just about you, it's just about your wife, it's just about your significant other. But those are the two things I'd say. Just have the patience, because they're going to kind of do things on their own time, and I think they're not going to adjust to you as much as you're going to have to adjust to them. So make sure you have that patience.
Yeah, well said. I love the message. This has been an honor for me. I got to say, Don La Greca, you're a first-class father all the way, and thank you so much for giving me a few minutes of your time here on First Class Fatherhood.
Oh, my pleasure, man.